Hey all, Amanda here, and welcome to American Ninja Warrior, a Season 9 recap. I'm pleased to announce that Season 10 will be starting Wednesday, May 30th on NBC, so check your local listings for times. I've been a major fan of the show since I first saw it one night on a replay, and I was hooked. So I just wanted to share what I loved about the show, explain what it was all about, and hopefully turn some people on to one of the greatest shows ever. The part I remember most clearly was the ultimate cliffhanger, where contestants had to hold on to a 3-centimeter lip by their fingertips and maneuver their way throughout the course. It was like watching a real-life Legend of Zelda game. I began following the show every year from then on, and had an excitement rush over me every episode. I don't really follow sports, other than the Olympics, as many of you already know, but when American Ninja Warrior is on, I find myself yelling at the screen, questioning what I'm watching, and best of all, cheering for every single contestant. One of my favorite things about the show is that they're just regular people whom in many cases have become friends, training partners, and in some cases, romantically involved. They all cheer for each other, offer advice and encouragement, and most do try to pass off their good fortunes onto others. The show's like an obstacle course for adults, where only the best survive, and one mistake could cost you the entire season. The absolute best part of American Ninja Warrior is that anything can happen, and usually does. So without further ado, here's a recap of last season. In this stream, I'm going to skip the qualifying portion. This is where anyone who wants to try out can, sometimes waiting days in line for a shot. The top 30 advance to the city finals. The city finals show the top 30 from each 6 towns get cut in half to the top 15. Those top 15 then head to the national finals on a 4-stage course down Victory Road in hopes of taking on Mount Midoriyama for a chance to win $1 million. Last year saw a change to the rules where the top 30 advancing now had a separate list to include the top 5 women finishers. The city finals showed the top 15 with the top 2 women advancing. It was good in theory until the women started beating the men, and more on that later. So now, in no particular order, are the top 15 contenders that advanced to the finals and their results. The LA course starts with the floating steps. Contestants must leap across 5 floating steps, 6 feet apart, leading to a rope that they must then use to swing to a ledge. Next is the cannonball drop, where contestants grab a hanging ball as they fly down a declining drop to safety. Next are the flywheels, where contestants jump from one rotating ring to the next, till they land safely on the other side. Next is block run, in which contestants test their agility by running across 4 rotating blocks, which lead to the battling ram. Contestants use their body to move themselves forward through the course. Up next is the warped wall. This 14.5-foot inclined wall is the last event in qualifying, whereas in the city finals, 4 more challenges await. Next is the staple in every city finals course, the salmon ladder. Years ago, this was one of the events that took out many of the athletes. Contestants use their strength to hoist themselves and a metal bar up several rungs. This leads us to the swinging pegs board. Contestants must put pegs into holes into shifting boards as they solve the path to the other side. Next is the stair hopper, where contestants slide a bar across metal ledges of varying heights. Once there, they must then pull themselves up a 35-foot climb using 2 levers to make the journey. Those that complete the course or go the furthest the fastest advance. The contestants that qualified were Sean Bryan, who completed the course in a time of 5:07:22. Sean Bryan is a Catholic church worker from Berkeley, California, and first competed last year. Next we have Adam Rahl, who finished the course in a time of 5:07:92. He's a concrete worker from Phoenix, Arizona, and tried to get on the show as a walk-in in Kansas City for American Ninja Warrior 7, but was unsuccessful until last year where he got accepted. He advanced as far as the city finals last year. Next up is Charlie Andrews, who finished the course in a time of 6:02:21. Charlie majors in math and science at MIT and has founded the rock climbing organization there from his childhood experiences with his best friend and ninja warrior, Josh Levin. This is his first year on the show, but debuted on Team Ninja Warrior. Next up is Josh Levin, who finished the course in a time of 6:27.98. He's a professional rock climber from Sunnyvale, California, and first competed last year. Next up is one of my personal favorites, Flip Rodriguez. He failed on the elevator climb and reached a time of 4:49.73. Flip made his debut on American Ninja Warrior 3 and is a fan favorite. Next up is Gabe Hurtado, who failed on the elevator climb and reached a time of 5:50.50. He's a shoe salesman from Fresno, California, who completed in 2 seasons of American Ninja Warrior. Next up is Brian Wazowski, who failed on the stair hopper with a time of 2:31.21. He's been a veteran since Season 5 and competes with his older brother Chris, who did not advance this year. Next is Kevin Bull, who failed on the stair hopper with a time of 3:02.40. Kevin's a stock trader who first competed in American Ninja Warrior 6 as a walk-on. Next is Robin Petchman, who failed on the stair hopper with a time of 4:23.90. Robin debuted during the special all-military episode of American Ninja Warrior in Season 7 in 2015. Next is Jackson Meyer, who failed on the stair hopper with a time of 5:03.54. Jackson is a biology student who first competed in American Ninja Warrior 7. Meyer is known by many as the Ninja Scout due to his scouting experience. Next is Kapu Gayson, who failed on the swinging pegboard with a time of 3:03.15. He debuted last year but did not advance. From Hawaii, his run was cut due to time this year. Next is Steve Seaver, who failed on the swinging pegboard with a time of 3:10.34. Steve's a yoga instructor and a former Army veteran. Next is Benjamin Humphreys, who failed on the swinging pegboard with a time of 3:15.66. Ben's a hairstylist and a first-time competitor. Next is Nick Hansen, who failed on the swinging pegboard with a time of 3:22.56. Known as the Eskimo Ninja, Nick's a coach from a small village in Alaska and debuted in Season 7. And lastly, David Campbell, who failed on the swinging pegboard with a time of 3:29.48. Known as the Godfather, Campbell made his debut in Sasuke 22 via winning the 4th and final American preliminary competition, the American Ninja Challenge. Campbell tried out for the first American Ninja Warrior for a spot in Sasuke 24 and has participated in every season since. Last season also showed the top 2 women of the city finals advancing. First we have Rebecca Bonilla, who failed on the swinging pegboards with a time of 5:26.32. She debuted in Season 7, then took off a year due to her mother getting sick and a divorce. And we also have Zanique Levitt, who failed on the warped wall with a time of 3:24.64. A mother of 3, this is her first year competing. The San Antonio finals start with the floating steps. This leads into TikTok, where contestants trapeze themselves to a moving target without bouncing off before jumping to the other side. Then another agility test. Spinning bridge shows contestants run across 4 rotating balls. Next is Skyhook, where contestants use rings to grab onto hooks, maneuvering themselves to the other side. Next up is Pipe Fitters. Ninjas climb an inverted tube to reach hanging pipes that they must pull themselves across. Then it's up the warped wall, followed by the salmon ladder. We then see the always challenging hourglass drop. Contestants use their hands to cross hanging, hourglass-shaped boards, then jump onto a trampoline, where they must grab a second hourglass-shaped board, crossing safely. Next, in Spinball Wizard, contestants, again using just their hands, cross 5 moving propeller-shaped bars, leading once again to the elevator climb. Our San Antonio finishers were Daniel Gill, who finished the course with a time of 5:50.65. A worship leader, singer, and trainer at Sam Sand's Iron Sports Gym, Daniel debuted 2 years ago. Daniel was the only one to finish this course. Next is Thomas Stillings, who failed on the elevator climb with a time of 4:29.25. Thomas is a parkour instructor from San Antonio and debuted 2 years ago. Next is Nicholas Coolidge, who failed on the elevator climb with a time of 5:07.15. Nicholas is a construction worker who debuted 2 years ago. Up next is veteran Brent Stevenson, who failed on the elevator climb with a time of 5:12:38. Ex-boyfriend of Casey Catanzaro and co-owner of a gym with her, Brent is a stuntman and veteran competitor of Suzuki and American Ninja Warrior, debuting in Season 2. Next is Karsten Williams, who failed on Spinball Wizard with a time of 2:39:43. Karsten is a personal trainer who debuted in Season 5. Next is Andrew Lowe's, who failed on the Spinball Wizard with a time of 3:54:62. Andrew is a gymnast who debuted in Season 4. Next is Josh Salinas, who failed on the Hourglass Drop with a time of 2:29:64. Josh is the program director of a mini ninja program at Iron Sports, focusing on private lessons with children and adolescents. Next is Brian Burkhart, who failed on the Hourglass Drop with a time of 2:55:84. Brian is a Texas Tech Law student and a rookie. Next is Damir Akonovic, who failed on the Hourglass Drop with a time of 3:02:90. Damir is a nail salon manager and a rookie. His run was cut. Next is Matt Holt, who failed on the Hourglass Drop with a time of 3:19:13. Matt is a rookie whose run was also cut. Next up is Grant Clinton, who failed on the Hourglass Drop with a time of 3:25:56. Grant is a bank manager who debuted last year. Next is Abel Gonzalez, who failed on the Hourglass Drop with a time of 3:25:98. Abel is a personal trainer and public speaker who competed as a walk-on on Season 6. Next is Brandon Pennell, who failed on the Hourglass Drop with a time of 3:29:05. Brandon debuted in Season 6, but skipped Season 7 and returned the following year. Next is Cass Clayson, who failed on the Hourglass Drop with a time of 3:31:83. Cass attends Belle Chase High School and is a UNO grad. He's also a rookie. And lastly, Jody Alvia, who failed on the Hourglass Drop with a time of 3:32:66. A 6'6" rookie, Jody wanted Akbar to bestow an official Ninja Warrior nickname on him if he completed the course. His wish came true, giving us Big Dog Ninja. The women who advanced were Barclay Stockett, who failed on the Hourglass Drop with a time of 5:43:62. Barclay's a gymnastics coach who debuted last year. The other woman to advance is my personal favorite, Casey Catanzaro, who failed on the Warped Wall with a time of 4:18:32. The mighty Casey is an obstacle course trainer, former NCAA gymnast, and debuted on Season 5. Daytona Beach shows contestants running across the floating steps into the rolling pin. There they must hold on tight as a log-shaped device rotates quickly down a ramp, tossing them to the other side. Next are the wingnuts, where contestants leap sideways from one swinging wingnut-shaped obstacle to the next. Next is the broken bridge, where contestants must once again use their agility in crossing a suspended step bridge. Next is Rolling Thunder, where contestants must use their strength to pull a massive wheel and themselves to the other side. Again, challengers face the warp wall and the salmon ladder. They then approach the giant cubes. Contestants climb a trapeze, where they jump to one large cube before maneuvering around it and crossing to another before dismounting to safety. Then we approach the circuit board, where contestants must figure out a path to take whilst maneuvering handles in and out of a maze, which then leads to the elevator climb. The competitors to advance were Drew Dreschel, who finished the course with a time of 7:34:60. Drew's a gym owner who debuted in Season 3 and is a fan favorite, as well as one of my own. For fans of Dragon Ball Z, Drew's the closest to Kakarot you'll ever see in real life. Drew was the only one to complete this course. Next is JJ Woods, who failed on the elevator climb with a time of 6:20:96. JJ is a professional freerunner who debuted in Season 4, skipped Season 5, and has competed ever since. Next is Sean Darling Hammett, who failed on the elevator climb with a time of 6:26:03. Sean is a lawyer and known as the Giving Ninja. He has given every dollar he has won through Ninja Warrior competitions to organizations expanding educational opportunity. He debuted 2 years ago. Up next is Jessie Graff, who failed on the elevator climb with a time of 8:15.71. Jessie's a stunt woman who doubles as Supergirl and debuted in Season 5. She missed Season 6 but has competed ever since. Up next is Travis Rosen, who failed on the circuit board with a time of 3:41.07. Travis is a stockholder and veteran since Season 2. Next is Cassidy Marks, who failed on the circuit board with a time of 3:47.40. Cassidy is a project manager and a rookie. Next is Tyler Gillette, who failed on the circuit board with a time of 3:47.60. Tyler's a delivery driver who turned 21 just in time to make his debut. Next is Kevin Carbone, who failed on the circuit board with a time of 4:51.35. Kevin is a tennis instructor and rookie, and despite winning the obstacle design challenge, creating wing nuts, he had to wait in the walk-in line. Next is Rigel Henry, who failed on the giant cubes with a time of 2:47.71. Rigel's a construction worker and a rookie. Next is Nick Patel, who failed on the giant cubes with a time of 3:44.59. Nick's a massage therapist and a walk-on rookie. Next is Lucas Gomez, who failed on the giant cubes with a time of 3:52.87. Lucas is a worship leader and part of the duo the Brazzy Boys with his brother Alexo. Both have competed the last 3 years. Next is Rico Rivera, who failed on the giant cubes with a time of 3:53.30. Rico is an entertainer, most known for his run in a T-Rex costume, and has competed since Season 4. Next is Ryan Stratus, who failed on the giant cubes with a time of 3:58.95. Ryan is a gymnastics coach and a former member of the Georgia Army National Guard. He has competed in every season of American Ninja Warrior. Next is Dustin Fishman, who failed on the giant cubes with a time of 4:02. Dustin is a dog trainer and a rookie. And lastly, we have Michael Johnson, who failed on the giant cubes with a time of 4:08.65. Michael is an event manager and a rookie. The women who advanced were Jessie Graff, again who failed on the elevator climb with a time of 8:15.71, as well as Lindsay Eskison, who failed on Rolling Thunder with a time of 1:39.58. Lindsay's a web developer. The Kansas City finals started with the floating steps, which then led to the hang glider. A mix between cannonball drop and tick-tock, the contestants must slide down a declining pipe, then jump and land on a swinging pipe, and then jump across to the other side. Once there, they face the broken pipes, where they must run across one moving pipe, then jump to a second moving pipe to get to the other side. Next is Crank It Up, where contestants use themselves to pump 2 L-shaped handles up and over, then jump to another set, completing the same task. Then to the bar hop, where contestants use a bar to jump from one set of hooks to another to the other side. We then climb the warped wall and the salmon ladder to get to the floating monkey bars. Similar to the bar hop, contestants jump with a bar from one landing ledge to another. We then get to the Iron Maiden, where contestants must rock climb inverted boards, crossing to the elevator climb. No one completed this course. The finalists were Mitch Videpo, who failed on the elevator climb with a time of 4:19.49. Mitch is a medical researcher who debuted in Season 7. Next is Tyler Yamakuch, who failed on the Iron Maiden with a time of 3:44.58. Tyler is a physical therapist who debuted in Season 7. Next is Hunter Gerard, who failed on the floating monkey bars with a time of 2:49.30. Hunter is a gym manager and a rookie. Next is Eric Middleton, who failed on the floating monkey bars with a time of 3:22.46. Eric is an entomology student who debuted last year. Next is Dave Cavanaugh, who failed on the floating monkey bars with a time of 3:33.90. Dave is a firefighter and a rookie. Next is Lance Picas, who failed on the floating monkey bars with a time of 3:36.52. Lance is a rancher who debuted in Season 6. Next is Jeremiah Morgan, who failed on the floating monkey bars with a time of 4:17.41. Jeremiah completed in Season 6 and 7 with his father and brother, and then took 2 years off before returning. Next is Jelani Allen, who failed on the floating monkey bars with a time of 4:17.42. Jelani is a college student. Next is Alex Carson, who failed on the floating monkey bars with a time of 4:34:69. Alex is a manufacturing engineer and a rookie. Next is Kyle Mendoza, who failed on the salmon ladder with a time of 1:17:73. Kyle is a FedEx delivery driver who debuted last year. Next is Spencer Johnson, who failed on the salmon ladder with a time of 2:56:12. Spencer is a gymnast instructor and a rookie. Next is Brad Spine, who failed on the salmon ladder with a time of 2:57:20. Brad is an arm wrestler and a rookie. Next is Ben Baker, who failed on the salmon ladder with a time of 2:57:37. Ben is a rookie. Next is Morgan Moose Wright, who failed on the salmon ladder with a time of 4:17:37. Morgan's a PE teacher and a rookie. And lastly, Donovan Matoyer, who failed on the bar hop with a time of 1:04:60. Donovan is a shift manager at Walgreens and debuted 2 years ago. The women who advanced were Maggie Thorne, who failed on the bar hop with a time of 2:43:92. Maggie is a marketing consultant. We also had Sarah Heeson, who failed on Crank It Up with a time of 1:10:04. Sarah's a waitress. The Cleveland finals start out with the floating steps, which leads to the rolling log. Similar to the rolling pin, contestants hold on as they are spun down a declining ramp to the ledge below. Next is the razor's edge, where contestants run across narrow tilting boards. Next is the ring jump, where contestants must jump a ring over small barriers sticking out from inclining, then declining pipes. Next is the I-beam gap, where contestants climb upside down across a narrow beam, crossing to a second beam while still upside down to reach the other side. Then it's on to the warped wall and salmon ladder before taking on the nail clipper. Contestants must use their fingertips to cross from one rolling pin to another. Next is the clacker. Much like Crank It Up, contestants must use their strength to raise one lever up and over to reach the next lever. Once on the other side, they face the elevator climb. The Cleveland finalists were Joe Moravsky, who finished the course with a time of 7:24:10. Joe's a weatherman and gymnastics parkour coach who debuted in Season 5. Joe's a fan favorite as well as one of my own. Next is Jamie Raw, who finished the course with a time of 8:39:85. Jamie is known as Captain NBC and is a gym owner who debuted in Season 2, skipped Season 3, and has participated in every other season since. Next is John Alexis Jr., who failed on the nail clipper with a time of 2:40:68. John's a carpenter who debuted 2 years ago. Next is Mike Myers, who failed on the nail clipper with a time of 3:35:18. Mike is an engineer and a rookie. Next is Judas Liciardo, who failed on the nail clipper with a time of 3:53:33. Judas is an auctioneer and a rookie. Next is Michael Torres, who failed on the nail clipper with a time of 3:53:62. Michael is a carpenter who debuted last year. Next is Dan Galaniski, who failed on the nail clipper with a time of 3:57:56. Dan is a gymnast and gym owner and debuted on Season 2. Next is Mike Bernardo, who failed on the nail clipper with a time of 3:57:97. Mike is a firefighter and paramedic who debuted in Season 2. Next is Anthony DeFranco, who failed on the nail clipper with a time of 4:03:32. Anthony is a high school track coach who debuted last year. Next is Chris DeGangi, who failed on the nail clipper with a time of 4:18:92. Chris is a federal consultant who debuted last year and is now currently the boyfriend of Jessie Lebrecq, a fellow competitor. Next is Matthew Engelfritz, who failed on the nail clipper with a time of 4:38:26. Matthew is a construction worker and a rookie. Next is Tyler Cravens, who failed on the nail clipper with a time of 4:44:29. Tyler's a physiology student and a rookie. Next is Najee Richardson, who failed on the nail clipper with a time of 4:52:73. Najee is a fitness coach who debuted last year. Next is Samer Delgado, who failed on the nail clipper with a time of 4:56:13. Samer is an acrobat and a rookie. And lastly, Jessie Lebrecq, who failed on the nail clipper with a time of 5:03:76. Jessie is a caregiver who helps take care of Emmeline Stirp, who has cerebral palsy. Jessie debuted last year. The women who advanced were Jessie Lebrecq, again who failed on the nail clipper with a time of 5:03.76, and Elisa Beard, who failed on the nail clipper with a time of 6:09.20. Elisa is a school teacher who debuted last year, dating current ninja James McGrath, who did not qualify. Lastly, we have the Denver Finals, which starts with the floating steps and then goes into the ring swing. Much like the bar hop, contestants use rings to jump from one hook to another. Next is the bouncing spider. Contestants must jump in between two walls and make their way to a trampoline before jumping to one of several swinging pipes, then swinging to the landing. Next is the paddle boards. In a test of agility, contestants run from one platform to another, back and forth, down a pipe to the other side. Next up is the rail runner, where contestants pull themselves up a rigid incline with a bar, then jumping to a second inclining pipe. Then it's the warped wall and the salmon ladder, leading into the wedge. Contestants must maneuver themselves across two walls by a bar without miscalculating their movements. Then is the ninjara roll. Inspired by the then upcoming Ninja Lego movie, this obstacle was submitted by a young girl, and much like the nail clipper and rolling thunder, contestants must maneuver across the course by moving a heavy, moving round device, which leads to the elevator climb. The participants to advance were Ian Dory, who finished with a time of 6:56.33. Ian's a farmer who debuted in Season 6. Ian was the only finisher of this course. Next is Lauren Ball, who failed on the ninjara roll with a time of 3:54.71. Lauren is a breakdancer who debuted in Season 2. Next is Jesse Lucio, who failed on the ninjara roll with a time of 4:09.68. Jesse is a ninja coach and a rookie. Next is Carson Voles, who failed on the wedge with a time of 2:58.62. Carson is a gym owner who competed in Season 6 and 7, missed Season 8, and returned for Season 9. Next is Ryan Souter, who failed on the wedge with a time of 3:03.22. Ryan's a software consultant and one of 7 siblings that tried out this season, but the only one to advance. Ryan's a rookie. Next is Dan Yeager, who failed on the wedge with a time of 3:15.07. Dan is a hair salon owner and debuted in Season 7. Next is Craig Richards, who failed on the wedge with a time of 3:24.15. Craig is an athlete, speaker, and a music artist who plays saxophone and is a rookie. Next is Bart Copeland, who failed on the wedge with a time of 3:46.84. Bart is a concrete business owner and a rookie. Next is Drew Knapp, who failed on the wedge with a time of 3:51.98. Drew is a gymnastics coach and a rookie, and he tried it with his brother, who fought back from leukemia. Next up is Ben Antoine, who failed on the wedge with a time of 4:06.41. Ben is a Boeing engineer and a rookie. Next up is Brian Arnold, who failed on the wedge with a time of 4:17.08. Brian is a maintenance director who debuted in Season 4 and retired this year. Next up is Yancy Quezada, who failed on the wedge with a time of 4:17.09. Yancy is an EMT and a rookie. Next up is Luke Chambers, who failed on the wedge with a time of 4:18.37. Luke is a business student and a rookie. Next is Michael Salinzi, who failed on the wedge with a time of 4:33.48. Michael is a physical therapist and a rookie. And lastly is Nick Karuski, who failed on the wedge with a time of 6:03.78. Nick is an aerospace engineer and debuted last year. The women who advanced were Megan Martin, who failed on the wedge with a time of 6:19.07. Megan is a rock climber and now sports model who debuted in Season 6 and is a fan favorite as well as one of my own. And we also have Jerry Dorello, who failed on the rail runner with a time of 2:03.26. Jerry is with the U.S. Army JAG Corp and is a rookie. Since so many participants were advancing, Stage 1 had to be broken between 2 episodes, though the course remained the same for each. Stage 1 starts with Snake Run. Contestants must run across several tilted steps, making their own path to the landing. Then it's up to the propeller bar, where contestants jump and catch a propeller, which swings them towards the landing. Then it's the Double Dipper, where contestants hold on to a bar, which sends them down a declining ramp, where they then jump to another ramp, leading them to the landing. Next is the Jumping Spider, where contestants jump in between 2 walls, before maneuvering themselves up and across to parkour run. These floating tilted steps form a semicircle, and contestants must keep their balance as they jump from one to another. Then they face another warped wall with a shorter starting distance. Next are the domino pipes, where contestants test their balance as they run across moving tiles. They then finish with the flying squirrel, where contestants use a trampoline to hoist themselves towards a bar and then swing to a cargo net they then must climb to hit a buzzer at the top. Stage 1 has a 2-minute 30-second time limit. The results of Stage 1, Part 1, showed Snake Run taking out Brian Wilczewski. The propeller bar took out Jesse Lucero and Lucas Gomez. The Double Dipper took out Gabe Hurtado, Maggie Thorne, Yancey Quezada, whose run was cut, Kapu Gason, whose run was cut, Lindsay Elskison, whose run was cut, Jalaim Allen, whose run was cut, Luke Chambers, whose run was cut, Michael Johnson, whose run was cut, Dan Yeager, and Lauren Ball. The Jumping Spider took out Matt Holt, whose run was cut, Judas Lisadero, Anthony DeFranco, whose run was cut, Michael Torres, whose run was cut, and Kevin Carbone. No one lost out to Parkour Run or the Warped Wall. However, the domino pipes took out Karsten Williams. On the last obstacle, the Flying Squirrel, Chris DeGangi made an incredible recovery on the last pipe, but ran out of time. Barclay Stockett, inspired by Casey Catanzaro, also ran out of time. Jesse Lebrecht got hung up on the rope in Parkour Run and fell on the Flying Squirrel, running out of time. Spencer Johnson, whose run was cut, also ran out of time, as well as Ben Barker, whose run was cut. Finishers heading to Stage 1 were Lance Pekas, who finished with a time of 1:49.52, Joe Murawski, who finished with a time of 1:52.24, Brent Stevenson, who finished with a time of 2:01.34, whose run was cut, Thomas Stillings, who finished with a time of 2:02.12, whose run was cut, Flip Rodriguez, who finished with a time of 2:04.34, whose run was cut, Travis Rosen, who finished with a time of 2:08.97, Kevin Bull, who finished with a time of 2:07.05, whose run was cut, Mike Bernardo, who finished with a time of 2:10.10, whose run was cut, Eric Middleton finished with a time of 2:11.48, but was not mentioned during the show, Cass Clayton finished with a time of 2:12.32, but was not mentioned by the show, Michael Salinzi finished with a time of 2:15.56, but was not mentioned by the show. Nick Koreski finished with a time of 2:17.28, but was not mentioned by the show. J.J. Woods finished with a time of 2:18.27. Josh Levin finished with a time of 2:21.09. Drew Knapp finished with a time of 2:24.28, but whose run was cut. Elisa Beard finished with a time of 2:26.52. Ian Dory finished with a time of 2:27.66, but whose run was cut. Andrew Lowe's finished with a time of 2:28.32, but was not mentioned by the show. Sean Darling Hammond finished with a time of 2:28.74, but whose run was cut. And Nick Hansen, who finished with a time of 2:30.74, just making it. Charlie Andrews did not participate in Stage 1 as he was injured before the Vegas finals. Part 2 of Stage 1 showed Snake Run taking out Steve Seaver, whose run was cut. The propeller bar took out Benjamin Humphreys, Craig Richards, whose run was cut, Cassidy Marks, Rebecca Benilla, whose run was cut, and Sarah Heeson, whose run was cut. The Double Dipper took out Jerry Durello, whose run was cut, Ben Antoine, whose run was cut, Janique Levitt, Kyle Mendoza, and Casey Catanzaro, which was a heartbreak. Look for Casey Catanzaro on WWE. The Jumping Spider took out Rigel Henry, Ryan Souter, Brian Burkhart, whose run was cut, and Mitch Videpo, whose run was also cut. No one failed on Parkour Run or the Warped Wall. However, the domino pipes took out Megan Martin, who got hung up on the second and fifth obstacle and ran out of time here. The last obstacle, the Flying Squirrel, took out Robert Pitchman with 50 seconds left, but then he fell, Brandon Pinnell, who ran out of time right at the buzzer as he took 30 seconds to recover from Obstacle 7, Bart Copeland, who ran out of time and whose run was cut, Alex Carson, who ran out of time and whose run was cut, and Jessie Graff, a stunning fumble, she fell on the Flying Squirrel. Finishers from the second half were Drew Dreschel, who finished with a time of 1:33.71, Josh Salinas, who finished with a time of 1:38.54, but whose run was cut, Daniel Gill, who finished with a time of 1:47.04, Hunter Gerard, who finished with a time of 1:51.16, but whose run was cut, Dave Cavanaugh, who finished with a time of 1:56.76, but whose run was cut, Nicholas Coolidge, who finished with a time of 1:58.18, but whose run was cut, Jamie Rahn, who finished with a time of 1:59.77, but whose run was cut, Matthew Engelfritz, who finished with a time of 2:03.48, but was not mentioned by the show, Najee Richardson, who finished with a time of 2:07.39, Jody Elvilla, who finished with a time of 2:08.18, but whose run was cut, Tyler Yamachi, who finished with a time of 2:09.53, David Campbell, who finished with a time of 2:14.11, Adam Rahl, who finished with a time of 2:14.60, Brian Arnold, who finished with a time of 2:15.15, but whose run was cut, Sean Bryan, who finished with a time of 2:15.48, Tyler Gillette, who finished with a time of 2:15.59, Abel Gonzalez, who finished with a time of 2:17.60, but whose run was cut, John Alexis Jr., who finished with a time of 2:19.40, but whose run was cut, Carson Voles, who finished with a time of 2:21.10, but whose run was cut, Ryan Stratus, who finished with a time of 2:25.33, but whose run was cut, and Grant Clinton, who finished with a time of 2:28.52, but whose run was cut. Stage 2 starts off with the giant ring swing, where contestants must swing and jump a ring across numerous hooks to reach the other side. Then we get to the crisscross salmon ladder, where contestants jump a bar up a rung ladder, then jump across with the bar to a second ladder, where they arrive at the wave runner. Much like the hourglass drop, but without the drop, contestants must cross wavy boards, jumping across to the other side. Next is the swing surfer. Contestants must run and jump to a swinging pipe, land, hold on, and swing to a wall to the other side. Next is wingnut alley, an adaptation to the wingnut. Here, contestants must maneuver themselves vertically and diagonally across several wingnut-shaped teetering bars. Then contestants must flip over 3 walls, each of varying weights in the final event, the wall flip. The first wall is 100 pounds, followed by 125 pounds, and finally a 150-pound wall to end Stage 2. Competitors must complete Stage 2 in under 4 minutes. The results from Stage 2 showed Ian Dory fail on the swing surfer, Lance Pekas fail on wingnut alley, Tyler Yamacha, who fell on wingnut alley and whose run was cut, Brent STEFFENSEN, who messed up on the rings and fell on Blade Runner, Nick Koreski, who fell on Blade Runner and whose run was cut, Eric Middleton, who fell on Blade Runner and whose run was cut, Hunter Gerard, who fell on wingnut alley and whose run was cut, Ryan Stratus, who got hung up on the rings for over a minute and then dropped, whose run was cut, Tyler Gillette, who fell on Blade Runner, whose run was cut, Travis Rosen, who fell on wingnut alley, whose run was cut, Jamie Rahn, who had an unbelievable save on the 3rd wingnut but could not stick the landing, Rick Hansen, who fell on the crisscross salmon ladder, whose run was cut, Sean Darling Hammond, who fell on wingnut alley, whose run was cut, John Alexis Jr., who fell on wingnut alley, whose run was cut. Then we have Sean Bryan, the first to finish Stage 2. Next is Mike Bernardo, who fell on the swing surfer and whose run was cut, Drew Knapp, who fell on wingnut alley, whose run was cut, Abel Gonzalez, who fell on wingnut alley, whose run was cut. We saw Adam Rahl fall on wingnut alley. Josh Salinas fell on wingnut alley and whose run was cut. Jody Alvilla fell on wingnut alley and whose run was cut. Andrew Lowe's fell on wingnut alley and his run was cut. Brian Arnold fell on wingnut alley, whose run was cut. Najee Richardson was the second to complete Stage 2. Josh Levin fell on Blade Runner and his run was cut. We saw Daniel Gill's run joined in progress as he slipped off the last wingnut in wingnut alley. Next we saw the only woman to compete in Stage 2 this season, With a music video from schoolteacher Alyssa Beard, she fell on the crisscross salmon ladder. Next is Dave Cavanaugh, who fell on the Blade Runner and whose run was cut. Grant Clinton fell on Wingnut Alley and his run was cut. Carson Foles fell on Wingnut Alley and his run was cut. Flip Rodriguez couldn't stick the landing on Wingnut Alley and his run was cut in a stunning upset. Joe Moravsky was the third to complete Stage 2. Nicholas Coolidge fell on the crisscross salmon ladder and his run was cut. David Campbell fell on Wingnut Alley and his run was cut. Thomas Stilling fell on Wingnut Alley and his run was cut. Next, in another stunning upset, Drew Dreschel hurt his arm overshooting the last wingnut and got a dead arm. He could not stick the landing and was heartbroken. Other participants who ran in Stage 2, but who had their runs cut and were not mentioned by the show, include Kevin Bull, J.J. Woods, Cass Clausen, Michael Salinzi, and Matthew Engelfritz. The three last remaining contestants entered Stage 3. It started with the floating boards, where contestants grip sideways hanging boards with their hands and feet to reach the other side. Next is the key lock hang. Much like the circuit board, contestants use handles to maneuver their way through a maze of interlocking paths. Then we see the return of the nail clipper, where contestants use their fingertips to move around and across rotating logs. Next is one of my personal favorites, the ultimate cliffhanger. In this event, contestants use their fingertips once again, only this time they must scale a wall using narrow edges at different heights and distances, then must jump across to a wall, continue further down, and cross again to another wall before dismounting to the ledge below. Next is the curved body prop, where contestants must use their entire core as they climb sideways up an inverted ramp by pushing across the sides with their hands and feet. Next it's on to Peg Cloud, a series of boxes which contain footholds and peg holes, arranged downwards where contestants use 2 pegs to maneuver their way across. Then it's the time bomb. This obstacle consists of 6 hooks that spin with spherical handholds 3 inches in diameter. Contestants must hold on to the spheres and traverse the hooks to the other side. Lastly is the flying bar, a horizontal version of the salmon ladder. Contestants must use a bar to jump from one suspended cradle to the next. There is no time limit in Stage 3, and competitors must complete the entire stage to advance to the 75-foot rope climb known as Mount Midoriyama. Sean Bryan was up first and fell on the ultimate cliffhanger. Najee Richardson was up next, with an incredible recovery after almost falling off the ledge trying to land after the key lock hang. He fell on the ultimate cliffhanger. And lastly, fan favorite, the weatherman, Joe Moravsky, resting upside down by his legs during the peg cloud. Joe fell shortly into the time bomb after missing hooking a ring. So that's how Season 9 ended, and although I obviously love the show, I did have some issues with the season. Basically, the editing. One of my personal favorite ninjas, Flip Rodriguez, did promotion all preseason with Jesse Graff for NBC, only to advance to Victory Road to have his run cut on both Stage 1 and 2. Kevin Bull's rookie run is one of the most viewed clips in American Ninja Warrior history, and is a shining light on alopecia, a condition that affects him, and his final runs were cut. J.J. Woods, sharing an incredible comeback story of never giving up, and only one of 2 to jump across parkour run, though he thought of it first. His runs were cut. There were also several other veterans of the sport who were cut throughout the entire season. Brent STEFFENSEN was cut earlier in qualifying, Brian Arnold was cut in the finals, Travis Rosen was cut in the finals, and David Campbell was cut in the finals. Daniel Gill, my mom's personal favorite, is thought to possibly be a contender for the next American Ninja Warrior, yet his run was joined in progress. Josh Levin was cut after we invested in his story with best friend Charlie Andrews and his injury. Many other fan favorites and up-and-comers were cut, leaving viewers at home disappointed to not see the payoff for their favorites. The other major issue I have is the new women's list. Although I love the fact that more women are getting into the sport, the list doesn't really make sense, because both Jesse Graff and Jesse Lebrecq both finished in their own right, and took a spot amongst the 15 finishers, but also took a spot on the women's list. essentially taking a shot away from another ninja. The only other issue I had with the show wasn't a major one, and it was schoolteacher Alyssa Beard's music video. I'm sure it was done to help promote her and show a fun side, but I think it actually hurt her rather than helped. Other than that though, it's an absolutely incredible show. I hope those that were already fans of the show enjoyed the recap and are as excited for season 10 as I am. I hope to bring you updates throughout the season. And for those new to the program, please check it out. You won't be disappointed. American Ninja Warrior premieres May 30th on NBC. Check your local listings for times. I hear new cities may be added, and you can definitely expect new challenges. So until next time, go ninjas!